Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 142 on scavengerlife.com. Tonight, Jay has an interview for you from one of our listeners, Todd, who runs a recycling business, but also an eBay store. And he's going to tell you about how unique it is right now.
Todd, I want to welcome you to Scavenger Life.
Well, thanks, Jay. I appreciate it. I'm a big fan. I listen to you guys all the time, and it's great to be on. I'm really super excited to sit down and chat with you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. It's always funny to think like we make this in like our home and that people are out there hearing this, but we find, I guess, a lot of people enjoy listening to it while they're packing or listing. So that's what they'll be doing probably as we talk. But we're here tonight because I had a question that I asked on the blog several months ago, and that was, I noticed that, those boxes that are in like Pizza Hut parking lots, those donation boxes that are everywhere, and I know in our town there are several of them, and I even noticed that not all of them are like for a non-profit, and I always just wondered, well, who owns these boxes? And then you reached out to me and you had the answer. I don't know. Do you want to tell us the story of how you got involved with putting out those boxes that people donate to?
So I work for a not-for-profit, and we serve people who have developmental disabilities, things like Down syndrome and mental retardation and spina bifida, things like that. And part of my job is to try and create jobs for them to work in. So I went to a meeting that our county put on with a gentleman who ran another not-for-profit, a completely different one in Seattle, in Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
And his presentation was called Waste to Wealth. And basically what he was doing was taking things out of the waste stream and turning that into opportunity for people to work. And I just thought it was fantastic, and it was just like someone flipped on a switch. And I've always been a pretty frugal person. My wife and I both have been, and we don't like to waste a lot, and we believe that Americans are, while we're a very generous society, we're also a very wasteful society.
Right.
We're fortunate enough to live in a county that's pretty green. They're really trying to push green and recycling and reuse and repurposing. So I just thought it went hand in hand with my mission and trying to help the county keep stuff out of the landfill. And so from there we started basically recycling bottles and cans to start off with.
No, real quick, let's back up here. So you had this idea of boxes, and we've all seen them. I mean, some of them just look like kind of a plywood and spray paint, and some of them look like actual steel boxes that were made in a factory. What choice or what avenue did you guys go down?
Well, as a not-for-profit, we're obviously very tight with funds. Funding is a big issue for us, or lack of funding, I should say. So we went with the plywood and paint and a metal roof. These are just, supplies you can buy at your local hardware store, Lowe's or Home Depot, or even Habitat for Humanity, for that matter. So that's the route we went. We had our maintenance department just build them themselves.
And did you guys just start out doing one or a bunch?
Yep. Nope, we just started off doing one. It's in the front of our building. It's still there now. And so when people came in to drop off other recyclables, like their computers, we recycle electronics as well, or paper and cardboard, or plastic bottles or cans, or books, they start to drop off their clothes as well.
And this was interesting, too, when we talked, you said you were just kind of getting a raw stuff at first, old computers, paper, things like that. Now, when you put it out, what kind of its response did you guys get? Like, how quickly did it fill up, and how quickly does it fill up now?
It was surprisingly fast. It was an experiment when I first put it out. I didn't know what to expect or how much we would get back from the community, but it probably, to fill the box, and the box is pretty tall. It's taller than me, and I'm about 6 foot tall, so it's probably to fill it. It probably takes about 3 weeks.
Wow. Now, is there a box for each different kind of thing, or there's just, you guys open it up and there's paper and computers and everything inside of it?
No, I'm sorry. I must have misspoken. The box is specifically for clothing.
Gotcha.
The electronics, the paper, the bottles, the cans, we either, people don't put those in a box. They either bring them to us, or we actually have a service where we go out and pick it up for them.
Now I understand. Okay, so the box is just for, like, you know, someone would take it to at Goodwill, instead they bring it to you guys. Cool.
Right, exactly.
So then why don't we break this out, because as a scavenger, I love this. I think that I'm kind of obsessive impulsive, so I would love to work in a place like this, because it seems like it'd just be all about being organized. So let's talk about the paper and the computer stuff. It's interesting, you were telling me that you found a place that you can sell just like paper by the ton or by the pallet, right? And this is books and magazines, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so one of the services we offer for the public and for the people we serve to employ them in is it's basically a document destruction business. We shred people's paper. We shred people's businesses' paper. But what really happens is, on the back end, what I do is I recycle all that shredded paper and I sell it by the semi-load to, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Georgia Pacific or not, but Georgia Pacific is a huge paper company, basically.
Right.
And Georgia Pacific takes that paper and they pulp it, and they turn it into toilet paper, newspaper, paper towels.
Wow. So this is like people, so when the IRS is done for the year and people can, tear up their old tax stuff, they come and bring you boxes of their taxes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Huh.
In fact, every Wednesday we have a free shredding day that's open to the public. So Wednesdays are really busy for us because any Joe Schmo on the street can bring us their stuff and we'll shred it for absolutely free.
Now, when you say a semi, do you mean like an 18-wheeler truck? Like is one of those trailers? How long does it take to fill that up?
We do about 2 a month.
What? That's
about 2 a month, and that a semi filled with paper is about 40,000 pounds minimum.
Oh my God!
In fact, I can't send anything less to the paper mill than 40,000 pounds. Anything less, they won't take.
Now, can I ask, like, an average cost of how much they pay you per trailer?
The cost of how much they pay me for the paper?
Yeah, the paper. Yeah.
Sure. Paper, like most other things, is graded by the type of paper it is. So on that truck, we put on 3 different grades of commodity, right? So one of them is what's called sorted office paper. It's a pure white paper. It's the kind of stuff that you print on in your printer, basically. It's like a white ledger kind of paper. Then the other grade, and that grade pays about, it's about $120 a ton.
Wow.
Yeah. The other grade is the lesser grade, and that's stuff like magazine stock, newspaper, and that goes for about $70 a ton. And then the last thing that we put on there is cardboard. We also recycle cardboard, and cardboard goes for, in between the two, probably around $95, $100.
Wow.
$110 a ton. It fluctuates. The market does.
I mean, so really, when you send 40 tons, you could be making up to $4,000 per trailer.
Yeah, depending on what commodity we have the most of, absolutely.
Huh.
The other commodity I should mention, because this will be interesting to some of the listeners, is that I put on there is books. Gaylords, which are huge cardboard boxes filled with nothing but books. And we have kind of expanded that to eBay. We're actually taking books and we're paying people with disabilities to sort them and try and I got some barcode scanners and they scan them and see what they're selling for online through some websites, and then if it's worth selling, we'll actually sell it on our eBay store as a book. And then if it's not worth selling, if it's like a penny book or something like that, then we'll send it off to the paper mill where it's recycled.
Yeah. I mean, this is interesting. We have a lot to talk about because I love it because there's different avenues here. So right now we're just kind of talking about the bulk stuff, and then we'll get to the eBay store. But the next thing is computers. So what kind, I mean, like, tell me the volume of computer stuff you're getting and what kind of stuff people are bringing in.
We get all kinds of stuff. I mean, everything in from cell phones to servers. I mean, all kinds of stuff and anything in between. And all the components that go with all the wires and power supplies and you name it.
I mean, is it mainly like an office goes out of business and they're dumping it or they're switching over?
Yeah, we do get a lot of that. We get a lot of businesses who call us because they're upgrading all their machines at once, right? So they're switching over from Windows XP to Windows 7, for example, and they redo all their machines. So we do that, but we get a lot of stuff just from the front door where people, residents of the county know we're doing this, and they just bring us their old computers that don't work anymore. And even old computer repair shops, the stuff that they pull out of machines that are broken or junk, they will we'll go by and pick it up, or they'll bring it to us and we'll recycle it.
Now, is this stuff, so on the back end, are you guys trying to fix things up and resell it, or does it go to a ship back to Asia to get repurposed?
No. We don't send it overseas, but what we do is bring it in, assess it, see if we can sell it on our eBay store as what it is, as a computer or a cell phone or a laptop. And, of course, we're paying people with disabilities to do all this work. And if we can, great. And if we can't, we're paying those people with disabilities to disassemble it. And I'm selling the components back to the the commodities that come out back to the commodities markets. So, for example, if we get a really old computer in, and they disassemble it, one of the things that comes out of a computer is a heat sink, an aluminum heat sink that goes over the central processing unit. Well, that's just solid aluminum. So what I do is I set that stuff aside and put it in a big box. And when I fill that box full of aluminum heat sinks, I send it to the local aluminum recycler. And they pay me for it, and that money I use to pay the people with disabilities to do that work.
Yep. You know what? There's a guy I probably couldn't even find it again. I was on a YouTube, and just one of those rabbit holes is going through people scavenging, and I found this guy, and he had a whole thing in his home where he would do what you're talking about. He would bring home just old computers that people throw away, and he would just take apart each and every piece, and he just had like a plastic bin for like the aluminum heat sink, the steel screws, this or that, and when it got full enough, he would take it down to a metal place, and they'd give him cash.
Yeah, it's kind of the same principle. We've just kind of also thrown in e-commerce in the mix to see if we can actually... I want to clarify this, too, because this is pretty cool. I really like this aspect of it. So not only are we selling it as a printer, but we've kind of expanded even off of that. So anytime you take apart a lot of electronics, you're left with a bunch of screws. Little tiny.
Yeah.
And what I was going to do was send them off to the local steel recycler. But then I said, well, wait a minute, let's weigh them out.
Yep.
Let's put them in a small flat rate shipping box on eBay. And I kid you not, they're selling like hotcakes.
Probably because there's guys who have like a small computer shop and they need those little tiny screws, right?
Possibly. I don't really know what they're doing with it because it's a mix of all kinds of screws. Some are small, some are big. So.
That's so great.
And here's another one that I really like, too, is hard drives, computer hard drives. We also offer a service where we will actually shred someone's hard drive so their data doesn't get into the wrong hands.
Yep.
But we do it differently than some of the big electronics recyclers in that we people with disabilities to actually disassemble the hard drive. And then the platters that are in the hard drive that contain the data, we run it through our paper shredder, shred it. And then all the components that are left over, we're recycling. And one thing that got left over that I could never figure out what to do with were these rare earth magnets. And so just on a whim, I said, let's put 3 pounds in a small flat rate shipping box and put it on eBay. And those, I've sold out of those things. I can't keep them on the shelf.
How much does something like that sell for, 3 pounds of rare earth magnets?
I think we're selling those for $17, I think.
Oh my God, that's great.
We're probably underpricing it.
Yeah.
I just have to get stuff out the door.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Okay, so to kind of wrap up on the computers, what percentage of the computers, though, like someone's bringing you an Apple Mac, a laptop that's still in good shape? I mean, is that common?
I'd say it probably happens. We get working equipment in probably maybe 20% of the time.
Wow. And does a person, are they totally aware it's a good computer, but they're just like, I got the new one, take it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. In fact, my highest sale to date on that eBay store for work was a MacBook that someone brought in. They had just upgraded. There was nothing wrong with it. I sold it for like $800.
It just reminds me of there's that, I think it's called eBay Mom or something, and she dumpster dives, and she has this real popular video where she was just in the dumpster behind some apartment building. She pulled out a bag, and she found like these working iPhones and like a computer, you know? It's like, Jesus Christ, people.
I know. It's crazy. It really is.
Huh.
And I don't know, kind of, you think it's wasteful, but it kind of makes us feel good that we're, you know, we're employing people with disabilities, and we're keeping that stuff out of the landfill.
Yep. Then the next category, I guess, you guys got into was in the box, and that's like clothes. But are people also putting in just other things too? Yeah,
shoes, belts, purses. Yep. That's mostly what gets in there. And then occasionally you'll get some contamination. You'll get a little bit of trash occasionally, but it's the minority of the time.
Now, do you guys still only have a single donation box right out front, or have you made ones and put them in other parts of town?
We actually have two out right now.
Okay. And those are just on private property somewhere?
One is on our property. The other is on the property of one of our customers who we do document destruction and electronics recycling for. They've just allowed us to put the box on there so that their employees or anyone driving by their business can stop and put stuff in.
Now, that one that's not on your own, its property, does that have a problem with people putting in garbage and junk?
Yeah, occasionally you'll get some stuff, but it's not that bad. It's not as bad as you would think.
That's amazing.
Most of the time, I mean, there's a big stencil on the box that says clothing only. So, and most of the time people will adhere to that. You know, they're really there to donate clothing. They're not there to throw trash in. So.
Look, I think that's great. I guess I just sometimes have a darker view of humanity, and like I'm thinking, people are like, at 2 a.m. they're just pulling up and they're throwing their garbage out that they're too lazy to take to the dump, So that's good.
Yeah, fortunately that's not the case. But occasionally you do get some stuff, but it's not very often. It's really not.
So you said it takes about 3 weeks for one of those boxes to get filled up with clothes and other goods. Right. And then did you open it up and you unload it? I mean, so what's the process of going through it, and what kind of stuff are people bringing to you?
Oh, all kinds of stuff. Pants, shorts, jackets, shirts, shoes, belts, purses. I mean, you name it. All kinds of stuff. Some name brand stuff. We've had a couple of families bring us in some designer clothing from a parent who had passed away. So we get all kinds of stuff, the whole gambit. It runs the whole gambit.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, with the clothes too, though, most of it, aren't you donating by the ton for rags?
Yes, we were. That's originally what we started out doing, was just putting it in our paper baler. We have a vertical baler, and baling it up. And then I call a textile recycling company, and they come up and pick it up and pay us for it. And that money I use to pay people to do the work.
Yep.
But what's recently happened is we've gotten a small grant which is going to allow me to purchase some equipment and employ, it's actually for ladies, employ 5 females in a business that I create. And the business that I'm going to create is having them take this clothing, assess it, see if it's worth selling on our eBay store. If it is, clean it up, take pictures, do the listings, and put it up on our eBay store so we can actually sell it as clothing, get a higher return for it. And then the stuff that's not worth selling, we're still going to sell to the textile recyclers.
So let me break that out. So a bale of clothing or a bale of rags, how much do they pay you for that?
I'd have to look that up. I think it's 70 cents a pound, I think is what it comes out to. So you can do the quick math on that. But it's somewhere around, I believe it's 70 or 75 cents a pound, if I'm not mistaken.
Got it.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, so it's hard to say, but
yeah,
I believe that's about right.
And do you think that company then takes it apart and they try and sell that stuff piece by piece?
I can tell you exactly
sure.
what they do.
Tell me.
I know this because I saw a documentary on this a long time ago.
Okay.
And it was really, really interesting. And it was about places like Goodwill and Salvation Army. You know, as eBay sellers, what we know is what we see when we go in, and that's you can buy clothes off their rack. And they do make some money doing that, no doubt. But what they really do is on the back end is Goodwill and Salvation Army and places like that, and, you know, my organization, we sell that to textile recyclers who in turn take that clothing and either turn it into rags or, more than likely, send it off to the third world where people take it to market and, you know, sell it as clothing to the people in the country. So I live in Florida, and most of this clothing that I sell at textile recyclers is going to go to the Caribbean. And this documentary I saw was actually on Africa. East Coast, New York, they send a lot of stuff over to Africa. That's why if you ever look at a National Geographic magazine, you see a little kid in Africa wearing a Bart Simpson T-shirt.
Yep.
That's us.
Yep.
That came from way over here.
Yep.
And that's exactly what they're doing, and we're kind of following the same pattern, except we're trying to incorporate eBay into that.
That's so interesting. Okay, so right now your nonprofit is hiring people to accept kind of waste from the public, and that's paper, computers, and clothes. Anything else, or those are the three things you guys are focusing? What's that? Books and books.
Yeah. So we've got electronics.
Yep.
Paper and cardboard.
Yep.
Books, which I'd like to talk a little bit more about. Clothing, which is still fairly new to us, but it's definitely taken off. And then we have an outside recycling department where we recycle plastic bottles, aluminum cans, and pretty soon glass bottles too.
Okay, so let's talk about books. I can imagine if you tell people I take books, I bet you get inundated with boxes and boxes of these things.
That's an understatement. Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah.
We actually have partnerships with the local Friends of the Library where we take literally, and this is an approximation, but it's about 1,300 to 1,500 pounds of books a week from them.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to imagine how big that is. So is that like a carload of books, or that's like a truckload of books?
It's more than a carload.
Yep.
It's probably the back of a pickup truck.
Yep.
It would probably be overflowing.
Yep. You know what? I never knew how to feel about that. Like, it makes me sad in some ways that, like, all these books are, I don't know, the library's like, we don't need them anymore, you know, and no one wants them. But yeah, that's the way it is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's so many out there. So, when we were first getting them, we were just sending them off to the paper mill, and I always tell people I felt like a Nazi burning books, because there was these classic, great novels going out the door. And this is before I knew much about Amazon or eBay, and I just kept saying, there's got to be some way to sell this as a book,
right?
Because it's still got a lot of value in it, you know.
Yeah.
It's a great American novel. It's got value. That's when I started, Googling selling books online, and so that's how we got into putting them on our eBay store, the ones that are worth selling as a book. And it's really starting to take off. I mean, it's really growing. I just got a call today from a bookstore that's going out of business that wants to give us about 3,500 or 4,000 pounds of books. I'm going to go over there tomorrow and actually see what they have.
Yeah, it seems like it's one of those things where once you get a reputation and people find out about you, I'm sure people are just calling from all over the place.
Yeah, people are starting to bring them in off the street, too. When they come for our free shredding day on Wednesday, which I've mentioned is real popular, they bring that, plus their old computer, plus some old clothes, which is great. We just signed, or are about to sign a contract with our local school board to do all their book recycling, including library books and textbooks.
Wow.
Which would be really cool for us. So we're excited about that. So yeah, it's definitely growing and expanding for sure, without a doubt.
Okay. So I've been focusing kind of on the scavenging part because that's kind of what we're about. But the key to this whole thing are the people who are involved. And it's mentioned, so this is an organization that helps people that would otherwise have a hard time finding work. Okay.
That's absolutely right.
So people with, you said spina bifida, Down syndrome.
Prader-Willi syndrome is another one. We serve a lot of clients who have Prader-Willi syndrome. Developmental disabilities is what they're called.
And so paint us a picture. So how big of a crew are we talking about, like on a Monday? Who shows up? How many people?
I employ approximately 90 to 95.
Oh my God. That's huge. Sorry.
And most of those are in the recycling, one of the recycling businesses we have.
Right.
I do have a handful, 10 or 15, that are in other businesses we have where we kind of make a product that we sell, or package a product for a company who makes it.
Yep.
But most of them are employed in one way or another in our recycling businesses.
Okay, so I'm super impressed because I was thinking, okay, there's like there are going to be like 12 guys, but okay, so we're talking like almost 100. Now I'm getting a picture that with all this stuff we're talking about, I'm thinking you guys are in this huge old warehouse.
Oh, you're pretty close.
Yeah.
We have our main office was built with some forethought in mind. When they built it, they put in a loading dock. They put in big open spaces in the back for. They used to have machinery back there where they did some kind of packaging, like heat shrink machines, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there were big open spaces, which is really conducive to what we're trying to do because, as you know, when you start selling stuff, you got to have some place to store it.
Yeah.
So you have enough of it to sell, or until it sells. So if I sell 40,000 pounds of paper, I got to put it somewhere until I have a truck come. So that takes up space. So it is a pretty big building in the back, absolutely.
So how are these guys, and I'm sure it's females too, right? It's guys and girls? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how is everyone doing this? Does everyone, like, is it by team, and like this is the computer team and you're the book team? And yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We have departments. I have electronics recycling department. And within that, they do the disassembly of computers, keyboards, microwaves, hard drives from computers, any weird stuff that we get in. Sometimes we get in medical equipment. They'll just assemble some of that stuff. They cut the cords off of every machine that comes in so we can recycle the cord that came with it for the copper that's in it. Then I have a document destruction crew, which is also the paper and cardboard recycling crew. And they shred paper and recycle it, and then recycle cardboard as well.
Are a lot of these people, have they been there a while and they know what they're doing and they just kind of put their head down and they're just doing it? Yeah,
for the most part. We do have varying skill levels, so some tasks some clients haven't mastered yet, and then we try and cross-train them as best we can so that they can learn as many new skills within their department as they possibly can, so they can kind of master them all. But sometimes that it takes a little while because of their disability for them to master those things. But I mean that's a big part of our mission, so that's really the bread and butter of my job.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point is to give people things to do and to learn and a challenge,
right.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's the dignity of work,
right?
Because I wish you could see their expression in their face when they get their paycheck every Thursday. There's nothing like it. They're very, very proud, and rightfully so. And if it weren't for our agency, those guys would have a job.
Yeah.
Not in our community, at least.
Right.
I'm aware of.
Yeah. No. I mean, I don't know if I've ever heard of anything like this before. I mean, how common is an organization like this? Are they popping up?
Yeah, we're actually part of a national organization. It's the ARC, the ARC of the United States, and they're all over the U.S. But I like to think that I know that ours is different in that the work we employ people with isn't the typical work that people with disabilities have been doing for years and years and years, and that's the kind of stuff that we lovingly refer to as the food and filth industry, and that's fast food and janitorial. It's so cliche in this industry, and I really didn't want to go down that path. I wanted to try something unique and different. green, take the things that are important to me in my life, being thrifty and not wasteful, and scavenging stuff, and turn it into opportunity for other people. So and that's kind of what we've done.
Plus, it just seems like the American way. It's like these guys are making their own money for their own selves. They're making money for the nonprofit itself. I mean, it's kind of like a win-win-win all around.
Yeah, I think so. And again, like I said, it keeps all this stuff out of the landfill. I wanted to tell you about something that happened to me today, too. When I got off work, I went to, because I personally sell on eBay, too, and Amazon, too. That's why I listen to your podcast. So when I got off work, I went to local Habitat for Humanity, which is one of my good spots for getting books to sell online. And I was talking to, they were doing the store, and they had taken all the clothing out. And I was asking her about that, and they have clothing boxes up all over our town, everywhere. I mean, there's probably, I'm not exaggerating, there's probably 50 of them with Habitat for Humanity's logo on it.
Yeah.
And she said they were going to stop taking clothes in their store, and they were just going to go in these boxes. And I was asking her about the boxes, and she was telling me that they don't actually own the boxes, that a company pays them to put their logo on the box. And then also, when they recycle the clothes or do whatever, they give a little bit of the money back to Habitat for Humanity. Which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's when, this is how this conversation got started a couple of months ago. Well, whereas you guys seem like you're upfront, you're a nonprofit, I give to you, it's going to a good place. A lot of these boxes, I notice, if you really look hard, there's no nonprofit anything,
Sure.
It's just like, it's a box. They might have like an earth on it or something that makes it, and it's colored green, so it makes me feel good. I guess legally, I, as a private person, could just put a box on private property as long as I am allowed to, and could just take donations to my business.
Exactly. That's basically what this, I don't know who the company is, but that's basically what they're doing. They've got these 50 boxes all over town. They've just asked Habitat for Humanity to borrow their logo so they can put it on there. And then they don't even take the clothing to Habitat for Humanity. They take it themselves, and they just give Habitat a kickback.
Gotcha.
Some money for their logo, basically. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's a way for Habitat as a not-for-profit to bring in extra revenue that I'm sure they need.
Sure.
And is it somewhat deceiving to the public? Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but with ours, what we're really doing is we're bringing that stuff back. Our clients get first dibs if they need clothes. They can obviously take it out of the box, and then we're putting them to work recycling that stuff.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk about eBay, because that's what we're about here. So did you have a personal eBay store first, and then kind of bring it into the non-profit, or the other way around?
No, I had a personal one first.
Got it. And so how did that get started? Like, what made you start an eBay store?
My wife and I had a baby. We needed some more money, and we had so much stuff around the house. I like a lot of people, I think, we just started selling extra clothes we had, or books we had laying around, or old cameras or whatever that we never used anymore. And it was just a way to bring in a little bit of extra income. And for me, it still is. I mean, I'm trying to build it up to the point that you guys have, but it's currently just a way to bring in some extra revenue and, pay for our vacations, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how people have full-time jobs and then have these crazy eBay businesses where they sell so much. It's incredible to me. So, if you're making enough to get a vacation every 6 months, I mean, that's amazing,
Well, thanks. I appreciate that, because having a 1-year-old and a full-time job and an eBay store is not easy. In fact, I'm always beating myself up because I'm not listening.
Yeah. Okay, so you saw that it worked for you. Now, have you heard? Are there other members of this ARC, kind of its network? Do they do eBay as well, or is this kind of a new concept in that world? I
don't. That's a great question. I don't know if other ARCs have an eBay store or not. What I do know, though, is that other not-for-profits like Goodwill or Salvation Army have an online presence for resale. I've seen that when selling a book on Amazon or buying a book off Amazon. I see Goodwill of San Francisco, for example, or Goodwill of Silicon Valley. So I know not-for-profits have a presence online with reselling. I don't think it's quite caught on yet. I think it will eventually, but it's been great for us. It's definitely brought in more revenue for us than had we sold, broken those items down and sold them to the commodities market.
Now, there might be people who hear this, and maybe they work for a non-profit, so it might be interesting to kind of talk about this. So if you first had the idea, okay, let's get an eBay store for our thing, what process did you have to go through? Like, I guess, did you have to, like, make a PayPal account, and, like, who controls the eBay store, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we made a PayPal account. My supervisor and I have control over that. We made the eBay store, and I am the person who gets contacted from the eBay store. And I have clients or people that I serve and some staff do the listings and take photos and do the listings.
Now, because I think probably a lot of organizations don't do this because, they think it's a great idea. Okay, fine, let's do it. But then, just like anyone starting their own private store, it's difficult because it's a lot of little details, a lot of organization. Like, how did you streamline that process?
Well, that's a challenge, depending on what it is you're selling. There's no doubt about that. Trying to sell computers that may have different amounts of memory in it, even though it's the same computer or a different size hard drive, you've got to really know what you're doing,
right?
To make sure that you're listing it accurately and you're representing what you're selling accurately. So it's always a challenge for us. I don't think we've mastered it by any stretch. We just keep doing it and keep striving to get better at it. The easiest thing is probably books. We've streamlined that with just barcode scanners and a PC.
Now, are you guys on Amazon on the books?
No.
Okay.
No, we're not on Amazon. We've talked a little bit about it, but we're not really doing that. We're just doing eBay so far. But we're also trying to use technology as much as we can to help streamline that stuff, and that's kind of where I talk about the barcode scanners and some websites that I found that will go out. Once you put the barcode in, it'll go out and tell you what it's selling for at 20 different places online, so that you can price it accurately. And then you probably know this, but if you scan a book in eBay, it self-populates all the information for you. So you've only got to put a couple of fields in, which makes it easier and more streamlined, faster. It's stuff like that we're trying to do.
So why don't we talk about books? So on like a Monday morning, is there a team of people that go into a corner of this building and they just have a table of books and they're just scanning and putting it online?
What happens is we bring in books in wheeled carts. These carts are probably 4 foot long by 3 foot deep by, about 3 foot wide. And we roll them in. We have some clients go through and start sorting them. Anything that we know is not going to sell, like magazines or newspapers or romance novels. We just, that goes into a huge cardboard Gaylord box, which is about a 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot box.
I bet there's some people hearing this who say, "Oh man, I'd buy those It's Romance books in a second." So,
yeah, they might, they might, and eventually we may start selling, penny books if we can figure out how to break even on, or make a little bit of money for the department. So they sort those in Gaylord boxes, and those are bound for the paper mill to get turned into newspaper, newsprint, that kind of stuff. And then the ones that we think might sell, we send back to a couple of people who have those barcode scanners and a computer. And then they go to that a couple of websites we have that we look at. I think one of them that we use is isbu.nu. And it kind of tells you what it's selling for at like 15 or 20 different places online. Yeah, isbn.nu. You can just put the barcode in and hit enter, and it'll go out to a bunch of different stores in here and in Europe and tell you what it's selling for average online. And from that, we kind of gauge whether it's worth selling or not.
So if it is put on eBay, then is there like a shelf of books where this stuff is put, and then is it put in alphabetical order, or how are you organizing?
That's funny you mentioned that, because I was just talking to one of my managers today about we have to get a system in place because there's getting to be so many books, and one trying to find it is a challenge. We need our own Dewey Decimal System. So that's another thing that we don't have the answer for yet, but we're trying to figure out how we're going to do that to make it as efficient as possible, and also as easy as possible for some of our clients, because with an intellectual disability, sometimes you have to make it pretty streamlined and simple for them to be able to grasp the concept.
So I was going to ask you, so are the clients themselves doing the research, and are they putting it on eBay?
Some of that they are, yeah. The research for sure, that's pretty easy for them to do. Some of them can list on eBay, and some of them still need a little bit of assistance. And that's we have staff who help them do that.
Gotcha. I mean, that's so awesome, because it's kind of like, I mean, once you start teaching anyone how to start doing eBay, it's almost like, if you guys go under, they know how to sell on eBay, and they're like, a work from home now,
Exactly, and ultimately my mission is to hopefully work myself out of a job. So that these guys don't need us anymore.
Yeah,
they can go and get their own job or create their own job without relying on us as a support system.
Seriously, oh man, I love that. Do you guys have the same kind of thing for like clothes, or is that kind of being built as we speak?
Yeah, that's being built as we're speaking. I'm waiting on. I just ordered all the supplies to start being able to take pictures of clothing. Mannequins, photo backdrop, the light, all that stuff. I just got all that stuff off eBay. It's starting to slowly trickle in. Once that all gets in, then we're going to start working on a process so that we can, again, streamline it for our, the people with developmental disabilities so they can really understand it.
Yeah.
Assign a staff to a group of ladies to do it for a couple of hours a day and put it up on our store and see what happens. As long as I'm breaking even after paying people, it's all good for us, because it's not about making money. We're a not-for-profit.
Right.
That's not the mission. The mission is to employ people. And so long as we're doing that and breaking even, it's all good. Well,
I always think, we just work by ourselves right now. But, every so often I'm thinking, I wonder if I hired someone, and I'm like, well, if I paid someone, $12 an hour, if that person could help me list, 4 things an hour, and, and if I could sell 2 things a day, I would pay their themselves. So yeah, it's just kind of about if you can get it streamlined enough where there's enough up that something is going to sell every day.
Right, and the only way we're actually able to do this now is because we got a small grant to help pay for the 5 ladies' salaries for a period of time until we get the whole thing running.
Right.
And hopefully self-sufficient.
Now, when something sells, whether it be books or anything, who packs and ships it?
The clients. That's definitely a pretty easy job for them to do.
Got it.
We use bubble mailers, poly mailers, flat rate boxes, and occasionally if it's like a computer or something, we'll have to use a bigger size box that the post office doesn't offer. And we have a UPS account, so we ship heavier items like computers with UPS because it's definitely cheaper than the post office.
Right. Do you have any kind of ballpark figures, like how much sells now? Like how much every week? You sell like 20 things a week?
I would say that's a pretty good estimate. 20 to 25 things a week.
Wow.
It's not that far off.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, lately it's really taken off because I've actually had some people listing on a pretty steady basis.
That's it, Yeah. It's all about it's a numbers game, I mean, like how big of it? So do you guys just buy it now, that kind of thing, or is it auction?
Yeah. No, we don't do any auction. We just do buy it now. A couple of things we have make an offer on, but not many. most large items, we have the buyer pay for the shipping, and on smaller things like books, we'll actually we'll do free shipping on small stuff.
So how big of an inventory do you guys have right now on eBay?
Oh, our store probably has, I can't give you an exact number, but it's probably around 250 items.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, you know.
But keep in mind, some of these things are, $200 computers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
that cost us nothing.
Right.
We just came to the front door.
But, it sounds like you're getting to that point where if you can just get it kind of flowing and you have a couple people every day who are just kind of focused on a listing as much as is comfortable, that stuff builds up,
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what it is, but I can't prove this by any stretch, but I still believe that there's something in eBay's algorithm that the more you list, something sells. Because we took a big break from listing for a while in our store, and stuff slowed down for sure. And as soon as we started listing again, things started selling, and it wasn't the things that we listed.
Right. I just think that
they experienced an eBay store a little bit too. So.
Yeah, no, I mean we've experienced that. It's for some reason I think eBay likes it when a store is active, and if it's active, then they push everything back up into the search engine. And I guess maybe they just think stores that just don't list a lot are just kind of dead weight, so they just like push them down. But none of us, I mean, I have no scientific proof, but it seems like a lot of people have experienced that.
Yeah, I agree. I just wish I had the data to back it up.
Yeah.
I believe it.
You have a grant to get started, and hopefully you can get kind of the engine it's going. How much would you guys need to make on eBay a week to, keep it going indefinitely?
To keep the clothing grant going?
Sure, yeah.
Well, it all depends on how many people I'm able to hire.
Right.
5 people at minimum wage is, that's minimum wage in Florida is about $8 an hour, so it's $40 an hour.
Right.
So I'd have to make, and you'd have to make at least $40 an hour for every hour they work.
Gotcha.
Plus, so somewhere around in that general vicinity, $50 an hour.
So 300 times 5, yeah. So probably about $2,000 a week would probably cover you guys. With all with all the extras, what, honestly, that's totally doable. If
I think so.
If this grant gives you enough time, just like anyone. I mean, it took us a while to get our store kind of going to where we got enough inventory up where then it starts to sustain itself. So that's awesome that you guys kind of have that head start or that runway.
Yeah, well, thanks. I appreciate that. I wanted to mention one other thing that we're going to try and do this year that I think is pretty cool, and that is glass. So we recycle aluminum cans and plastic bottles, and we also got glass bottles. Anytime you do that, people throw glass bottles in. And we didn't know what to do with these glass bottles, so we were putting them in a big roll-off container that the city would come by and take off and throw away. Well, we have built this we got an old propane tank, a big one. Mm-hmm. It's like 8 feet long. And we built a tumbler out of it. We've attached a motor and chain to it. And what we're going to do is take glass, the bottles, pay people with disabilities to sort it by color, and then we're going to take, let's say, the blue glass, and we're going to throw it in the tumbler and let it tumble for 8 hours. And what comes out is small pebble-sized glass, I don't want to say beads, but tiny the glass with no sharp edges on it. And what we hope to do is clean that stuff up, package it, and sell it, maybe on our eBay store, but sell it as like aquarium glass.
Yeah. Or like it's crafts, people
craft
do.
Glass, right, exactly. You go into a Michael's store, you can buy a bag of craft glass for $5. Wow. So we just had this thing built, and we've tested it out, and a really nice product comes out of it. We're just in the stages of kind of creating the process for our clients to go through to actually do it and turn it into a product that we can sell and pay them to do.
So is that kind of what your gig is you just kind of try and think of like people are bringing you all this junk and you just got to think about what do I do with this stuff? I mean, is that the thing?
Yeah, it kind of is. It's kind of turning the waste stream into work for people, you know, because all these things, the computers started that way. Internally in our agency, we had a bunch of old computers that they were going to throw away. And I said, whoa, wait, don't throw that out. That's got to have some kind of value. And I looked it up. I started researching it on the internet, and I was like, we can turn this into jobs for people. We can advertise this as a service. We can bring them in, and we can disassemble these and put people to work with this. And that's kind of how the whole thing started. Even the paper recycling and the clothing recycling. It's a way to take a waste stream and turn it into opportunity and work for people.
So before you guys started taking all of the waste, you guys were just focused on that small group that was doing work for a company, like manufacturing stuff or packaging stuff?
Right, exactly.
And so so real quick, so because you turned on this waste stream, you guys have been able to hire like 4 times as many people, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. A lot more. And keep them working for longer throughout the day. In the past, they would have to work. We'd only have enough work to go a couple hours a day. Well, right. Now they've got much more than that. It keeps them busy pretty much all day. So that's a good thing.
Are they happy about that? Are they like, we don't want to...
Oh, they you better believe it. If they don't have work, I'm the first person to hear about it.
Wow.
They come knocking on my office door. We don't have any work. So... And I really do. I keep telling my manager who runs this department for me that we're just scratching the surface of creating different jobs for people in this field.
Yeah.
And the clothing is a great example of that. We were just baling it up and selling it for rags.
Yep.
Well, why not pay people to assess it, clean it, take pictures of it, list it on eBay, and sell it as clothes. And then if it doesn't sell as clothes, then we can sell it as rags or the books.
I mean, I'm telling you, there's all those stories on eBay how people run stores from their home because they have, they're handicapped or, they're sick, but they still need to make a living. I mean, that's really it seems like kind of an untapped resource for all kinds of people.
The other thing that we want to try and start in the next couple of years, too, is mattress recycling.
Huh.
This is another thing that I learned about from that presentation I went to that gentleman had, and he's actually the largest recycler of mattresses on the West Coast. And he's put people to work. Before they were just going in the landfill.
Yeah.
And they're real big and bulky, and they're a fire hazard, and nobody knew what to do with them. Well, he started recycling them because 95% of what's in a mattress is recyclable. And so I'm hoping that we're not doing it here in our county. I'm hoping that next year we might be able to tackle that as a project and put people to work taking mattresses. And we're in a college town too, so students leave. There's mattresses all over the place.
Yeah. Now,
hoping to turn that way stream into work.
So to kind of start wrapping this up, let me ask you. I mean, what are your limitations right now? Is it space? Is it money? Is it time? I mean.
Yeah, space is starting to be an issue for us just because when you get to this level, you're dealing in large mass quantities. I can't even call the truck to come pick up the paper, for example, until I have 40,000 pounds or more. That takes up space. And the same thing with plastic bottles. If I call a truck, I've got to have 40,000 pounds of plastic bottles. Well, that's a lot of plastic bottles when you bale it up.
Right.
That's a lot, and it takes up space. And so space is definitely an issue for us. And then, as a not-for-profit, funding we get from the state to provide the services that we do is always ridiculously low. So money's always an issue, of course. Like most people in not-for-profit, I wear several different hats, as do my staff and their staff under them.
And can you, so you sound like you've increased the amount of people you've been able to hire. Could you hire more people? Like, is there a larger population that still needs work?
Yeah, absolutely. The part of the agency I oversee is the work programs, but we have another couple of programs where clients don't work. They do kind of daily living skills, arts and crafts. A lot of those clients want to work. I just don't have enough work to give them. So there's kind of a waiting list to get in one of my work programs.
So in a perfect world, how many people could you hire, you think?
In a perfect world?
I mean, I don't know. Like,
all of them.
Yeah.
Every person with disabilities that we serve, I'd put to work.
But I mean, like in your town, I mean, is it like 500 people? I mean, I guess hard to say.
Yeah, it's hard to say how many people with disabilities are in our town. But, you know, I think in our agency, work and non-work, we have probably close to, 250.
Wow.
And I'm employing about, 95 to 110, somewhere around in there.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I'd like to employ them all if I could, or the ones that want to work.
Yeah.
You know, some of them don't want to work. They've retired from work, you know. So,
yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
Just like anybody else. I'm sure some people are a little more gung-ho than others, you know.
Right. We have an elderly population, and they've retired. They don't want to work anymore, and they don't want to hang around the young guys. They want to hang around their peers. So
yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun place. I bet half the fun of it is just that, you know, everyone can come and they work and everyone's around each other, and it's just, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great group of people. Despite their disabilities, they have the best outlook on life.
Mm-hmm.
They're just always happy and friendly and ready and eager to work and eager to please, and you know, they're just awesome. It's an awesome group.
Yeah. Well, it seems like if it wasn't a fun place to work, you probably wouldn't be sweating it so much, because I know what it's like to work at it's profit, and it's like you said, you're wearing several hats, and you're probably putting in more hours than they pay you, and you know, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's part of the job. Sure, I always tell people, if you're in this for the money, you're in the wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that you're able to do something that kind of combines. It's like a tapestry that you've done here, where you're taking all different kinds of cool things and weaving them together. And I think for a lot of people out there, that's a really rare occurrence, you know, because a lot of people are just doing things they really don't want to do, just things that they just have to do. So
sure.
It's cool you've been able to kind of find a job where you're solving problems and kind of doing good.
Yeah, that's the fun part of the job for sure.
Yeah,
I get the flexibility and the freedom to try and create a little bit, you know.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting, you know, with everyone we talk to, we'd love to kind of do a follow-up, you know, maybe in 6 months or so, just to kind of hear how eBay, if it works for you and if it grows. It's just so interesting to kind of hear how this works in your kind of world there.
Yeah, sure. No, we'd love to chat again. No problem. No problem at all.
Cool. Well, thanks for talking to us tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Jay.
Yeah.
Great talking to you.
Cool. All right. I'll see you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.